The United States covers nearly 3.8 million square miles. Most people see 50 places: the Grand Canyon, Times Square, the Vegas Strip, the Statue of Liberty. They never see the gaps. The wilderness clusters where the math of disappearance breaks down. Today we are walking through 13 of them. A swamp the Wampanoag named the place where spirits dwell. A desert where 2 German children's bones have never been found. A bus where a 68-year-old veteran disappeared in his seat between stops. A mountain where a 6-year-old in a red t-shirt vanished 100 feet from his father on Father's Day. Stay with us until the end. Our number 1 is a triangle of Alaska wilderness that swallowed a sitting U.S. House Majority Leader, and the largest peacetime search in American history found absolutely nothing. If you like deep dives into the places history forgot, hit subscribe. We post stories like this every week. Today we are counting down 13 U.S. locations where people vanish without a trace. Let's go. Number 13, the Bridgewater Triangle. The 200 square miles that eat people. Southeastern Massachusetts, 200 square miles between the towns of Abington, Freetown, and Rehoboth. At its center sits the Hockomock Swamp, 16,950 acres, the largest freshwater swamp in the state. In the Algonquin language, Hockomock translates literally to the place where spirits dwell. Archaeologists have confirmed an 8,000-year-old Native American burial ground underneath the water. The Wampanoag told the English colonists not to live there. The English ignored them. King Philip used the swamp as a tactical base during the war fought through it in 1675. In November 1978, 15-year-old Mary Lou Arruda was found tied to a tree inside the Freetown State Forest. In 1980, 20-year-old Karen Marsden was reported missing. Fragments of her skull turned up in the same forest months later. In October 2025, the skeletal remains of 2 more adults were located on an access road inside the same forest. The cryptozoologist Lauren Coleman drew a triangle on the map and gave it a name in the 1970s. The name stuck because the bodies kept arriving. Number 12. Joshua Tree. 12 years to find the bones. Bill Iwasko was a Vietnam veteran, 66 years old, an experienced hiker who had visited the park before. He left a written itinerary with his girlfriend in Marietta, Georgia in June 2010. None of that helped. His rented Chrysler Sebring was found at the Juniper Flats trailhead, a 90-minute drive from where he told her he planned to hike. Temperatures that week reached close to 100 degrees. The official search lasted 11 days. The unofficial search lasted 12 years. A retired engineer named Tom Mahood made roughly 20 trips into the park looking for him. In February 2022, hikers found Iwasko's remains in the northwestern corner of the park, near the Bigfoot and Panorama Loop Trail junction, far from any search grid. His wallet and ID sat beside the body. Tom Mahood's response to the location: "I can't fathom what he was thinking." The find did not solve the case. It deepened it. Number 11, Death Valley. The Germans who were never coming back, July 1996. A family of 4 from Dresden, architect Egbert Rimkus, his 11-year-old son Georg, his girlfriend Cornelia Meyer, and her 4-year-old son Max, drove out of Las Vegas after a small jackpot at the Mirage. They were heading for the largest national park in the lower 48 in the hottest week of the year. The record set at Furnace Creek in 1913 was 134 degrees Fahrenheit, the highest air temperature ever recorded on Earth. They had a Plymouth Voyager minivan and a German guidebook. They tried to shortcut over Mengel Pass, one of the worst Jeep trails in the park. 3 of 4 tires shredded. They drove on the rims for more than 2 miles. Then they got out and walked. Their van was found 3 months later by a ranger in a helicopter. An initial search by 200 rescuers, costing $80,000, recovered a single beer bottle. For 13 years, the explanation was, "We don't know." Then in November 2009, a retired engineer named Tom Mahood, the same Tom Mahood, walked into Anvil Canyon and found the bones the government had stopped looking for. The 2 children have never been positively identified. The desert kept them. Number 10, Olympic National Park. the spy who walked into the rainforest. He was wearing a Hawaiian shirt and sandals, khaki pants, prescription sunglasses. He carried a camera and nothing else, no backpack, no water. Gilbert Mark Gilman was 47 years old, a former U.S. Army paratrooper, a military interrogator with counterterrorism postings in Iraq. At the time he disappeared, he was deputy director of the Washington State Department of Retirement Systems. He had a meeting in Spokane the next day. On June 24, 2006, he stopped at the Staircase Ranger Station and walked off for a 2.1-mile loop hike. The Olympic rainforest absorbs sound. Sitka spruce, Douglas fir, 12 feet of annual rainfall in places, moss carpets that smother voices from 20 feet away. 10 days of searching by rangers, helicopters, dogs, and military personnel found nothing. His silver Ford Thunderbird convertible sat at the ranger station. He was legally declared dead in August 2015. Gilman's mother told reporters on the record that she believed her son had been recruited as a U.S. government spy and had disappeared on purpose. Authorities still monitor his bank accounts in case she is right. 3 more people have vanished into the same rainforest since 1992. The moss kept them all. Number 9. Mount Shasta. The mountain that swallows climbers. 14,179 feet of dormant stratovolcano in Northern California. Sacred to 4 indigenous nations, the Shasta, the Klamath, the Modoc, and the Achumawi. In Klamath Modoc tradition, the mountain is the home of Skell, the sky god. In 20th century New Age folklore, it is the entrance to an underground city called Telos. Carl Landers was 69 years old. He was climbing with 2 friends, Milt Gaines and Barry Gilmore, on May 22, 1999. He felt ill at Lake Helen, 10,440 feet up, and decided to start ahead alone. His friends agreed to catch up. They never saw him again. The search used helicopters, thermal imaging, ground teams, and dogs. The weather was clear. Landers was wearing bright-colored gear specifically chosen to be visible against snow. He has never been found. Mount Shasta climbing deaths are almost always falls. The bodies are usually found within days. As one investigator put it, there is nowhere up there to hide. The slope is open. The snowfield is open. A man in a bright jacket should be the easiest object on the mountain. 34 years before Landers vanished, an 80-year-old climber named John Neza disappeared on the same mountain. The mountain keeps its climbers. Number 8. The Pacific Crest Trail. 3 hikers, 3 years, 0 bodies. 2,653 miles. Mexican border to Canadian border. Through California, Oregon, and Washington. Every climate zone in North America. After Cheryl Strayed's memoir Wild was published in 2012, the number of thru-hike permits jumped from a few hundred to thousands a year. In 18 months between 2015 and 2017, 3 of those hikers vanished. Chris Sylvia, 28, was last seen February 16, 2015 near mile marker 127 in San Diego County. 4 days later, another hiker found his gear laid out alongside the trail. Sleeping bag unrolled. Sleeping pad placed neatly. Backpack against a rock. Like he had stopped to rest and intended to come back. Chris Fowler, 34, from Ohio. Dropped at the White Pass Trailhead in Washington on October 12, 2016. His last cell phone ping was around 5 in the afternoon. A blizzard hit the area within hours. David O'Sullivan, 25, from Cork, Ireland. He emailed his parents from the Idlewild Library on April 6, 2017. He had no alpine experience and had not bought snow equipment. The San Jacinto trails had unusual late-season snow. He told other hikers he had no intention of hiking through it. He hiked into the San Jacintos the next morning and never came out. Retired park ranger Andrea Langford and a volunteer named Kathy Tarr have spent years searching. Their team has reviewed more than 5,000 aerial and satellite photographs. None of the 3 men has ever been found. The trail does not return what it takes. Number 7. Crater Lake. The lake that takes children. The Klamath people did not look at this lake. Their oldest oral tradition described how it was formed. Skell, the sky god, imprisoned the underworld spirit Lau in a collapsed mountain and filled it with water. Geologists have since confirmed their account. Mount Mazama collapsed approximately 7,700 years ago. The Klamath warned their children not to stare into the water. They said it would draw the staring person down. The lake is 1,949 feet deep, the deepest in the United States. Charles McCullough, a 19-year-old Stanford student, vanished photographing the park in the winter of 1975. A year later, hikers found his backpack 12 miles from the trailhead. On the day he disappeared, there had been 7.5 feet of snow on the ground. His remains were propped against a log on a clear day in the dead of winter, his shirt and boots removed. No one has ever explained how he got there. December 1998. 8-year-old Derek Engebretson vanished near Pelican Butte, just south of the park, looking for a Christmas tree with his father and grandfather. October 2006. 8-year-old Sammy Bolke ran up a cinder slope at Cleetwood Cove and disappeared into the trees in front of his father. The Klamath stopped warning people about the lake when the park opened in 1902. The lake kept going. If you are still with us, hit the like button. Drop the location in the comments that has hit hardest so far. We read every single one. We are halfway through the list. The next 6 are heavier. Number 6. The Lake Michigan Triangle. The captain locked inside his own cabin. April 28, 1937. The freighter O. M. McFarland was hauling 9,800 tons of coal across Lake Michigan. The ship was 30 miles northwest of Ludington when Captain George R. Donner went to his cabin. He told his second mate to wake him before port. He locked the door from the inside. 3 hours later, the second mate knocked. No answer. The crew broke the door down. The cabin was empty. The Donner case is in every major American disappearance book ever written. Nobody has a coherent explanation. He was alone in a steel cabin on a freighter at sea. The door was locked from the inside. The ship was 30 miles offshore. He went somewhere. 13 years later, on the night of June 23, 1950, Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 2501, a Douglas DC-4 carrying 55 passengers and 3 crew, disappeared over the same water. It was the deadliest commercial aviation accident in American history at the time. The Coast Guard recovered 7,000 pounds of debris. Fuselage fragments, upholstery, luggage, pieces of human remains. The Coast Guard captain on scene said the largest piece of wreckage was no bigger than your hand. 2 unmarked mass graves of victims were rediscovered decades later in Michigan cemeteries. Author Clive Cussler and Michigan Shipwreck Research Associates spent 20 years searching 600 square miles of the lakebed. They found 9 other shipwrecks. They never found Flight 2501. The Ludington ferry still runs through the triangle, 4 hours across. Number 5. Mount Rainier. The mountain with a 32% recovery rate, 14,411 feet. The most prominent peak in the contiguous United States. 25 named glaciers. The most climbed major glaciated peak in the world. In a single summer, 2020, 3 young men vanished from the park. None of them were climbers. All of them left their cars behind. Talal Sabahu, 27, a GIS mapping specialist from Seattle. His silver Toyota Camry was found at the Paradise Visitor Lot on June 22nd. His wallet, his phone, and a written hiking plan were on the passenger seat. He had not even started his hike. 3 days earlier, Vincent G., 25, an Indonesian student in Seattle, was filmed by the Longmire Museum security cameras entering the Van Trump Trail at 11:23 a.m. He was wearing black pants, a blue and white shirt, and a tie. 221 people joined the search. No trace. The 2020 cluster matched nothing in the glacier fall data. These men were in parking lots, on day hikes. The Pacific Northwest Search and Rescue figure puts Mount Rainier's recovery rate for missing persons at about 32%. The national average is 71. Elaine Robertson, 24, drove up from California in May 1979. Witnesses at Sunshine Point Campground reported a young woman arriving on foot with 2 dogs, wet, cold, asking to borrow a tent. By morning, she and the dogs were gone. Number 4, Yosemite. 50 yards, then she was gone. July 17, 1981. Stacy Ann Aris, 14 years old, from Saratoga, California. She had been on a horseback expedition with her father George for 4 days. The group of 10 arrived at Sunrise High Sierra Camp at 3 in the afternoon, 9,400 feet of elevation. Open granite for hundreds of yards in every direction. Stacy showered, changed clothes, and decided to walk a short distance to photograph Sunrise Lake. A 77-year-old member of the group, Gerald Stewart, agreed to walk with her. Gerald got tired a quarter-mile in and sat down on a boulder. The trail guide, working at the corral nearby, looked up and saw Stacy standing on a rock about 50 yards south of the trail. The guide looked away. When the guide looked back, she was gone. No scream, no footprints, no camera. Stacy had a boyfriend back home and was planning to see him when she got back to Saratoga. 67 Mountain Rescue Association volunteers, dogs, and helicopters canvassed a 5-square-mile area around Sunrise Lake. The only object ever recovered was the lens cap from her camera. The Stacy Aris case is still on the National Park Service's official cold case page. 45 years on, they are still taking tips. Researcher David Paulides estimates roughly 1,600 people are missing across the entire national park system, spread across 85 million acres. The forest does not return them. Number 3. The Bennington Triangle. 5 disappearances in 5 years on a mountain the Algonquin refused to walk on. Glastonbury Mountain, southwestern Vermont. 3,748 feet of Green Mountain Forest. In 1937, Vermont disincorporated the town of Glastonbury entirely. One of the only times a Vermont municipality has been erased from the map. The population had collapsed to single digits. The Algonquin had warned about this mountain for centuries. Their tradition described a malevolent stone in the hills that would open and devour anyone who stepped on it. November 1945. A 74-year-old hunting guide named Mitty Rivers walked off a trail in Bickford Hollow and vanished. The only object recovered was his handkerchief the following spring. A year later, December 1st, 1946, an 18-year-old Bennington College sophomore named Paula Weldon hiked the long trail in a bright red jacket. She picked the jacket because it would be visible. An elderly couple hiking 100 yards behind her watched her round a bend near Hell Hollow. She never came back around it. 1,000 volunteers, the FBI, and a $5,000 reward turned up nothing. Her case led directly to the founding of the Vermont State Police 7 months later. Here's the detail that stops people cold. Exactly 3 years later, December 1st, 1949, a 68-year-old veteran named James Tedford boarded a Bennington-bound bus in Burlington. 14 other passengers were on it. When the bus reached Bennington, Tedford's coat was still in the luggage rack. An open bus schedule sat on his empty seat. Nobody saw him get off. 2 more vanished in 1950. An 8-year-old boy in a red jacket. A 53-year-old woman on a 100-yard walk back to her camp. Locals say it is bad luck to wear red on the mountain. Number 2. Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Father's Day, 1969. Dennis Lloyd Martin was 6 years old. 6 days from his 7th birthday. He was wearing a red t-shirt. He was on Spence Field, a grassy bald on the Appalachian Trail, with his father William, his 9-year-old brother Douglas, and his grandfather Clyde. The Martins had been making this Father's Day camping trip for 3 generations. Around 4:30 in the afternoon, the boys decided to scare the adults. They split up. Douglas and 2 other boys ran west. Dennis ran northwest into the tree line, his red shirt flashing against the green. Within 3 to 5 minutes, the older boys jumped out laughing. Dennis was not with them. By 8:30 that night, Grandfather Clyde had hiked 5 miles down to Cades Cove to report him missing. By dawn, rangers were on the field. Within hours, a thunderstorm dropped 3 inches of rain on the Smokies, washing out the scent trail. The search that followed was the largest in the history of the National Park Service. Approximately 1,400 searchers, 56 square miles. The Tennessee Air National Guard, 2 Huey helicopters from Warner Robins Air Force Base, 60 Green Berets, Boy Scouts, the FBI, 13,000 man-hours, and $50,000 in 1969 money. Footprints matching Dennis's shoe size were eventually found on the west prong of the Pigeon River. No one investigated them. The area had already been searched. A few hours after Dennis vanished, a family on a creek 9 miles away reported hearing what sounded like a child screaming, followed 3 minutes later by an unkempt man moving through the woods toward the sound. The lead was never followed up. Dennis Martin's FBI file is still open. Number 1. The Alaska Triangle. You step off a float plane onto a wooden dock in Juneau. The wind comes off the inside passage cold even in August. The rainforest behind the town rises into cloud. To the north of you is hundreds of thousands of square miles of glacier, tundra, taiga, and ocean. No road system connects most of it. There is no cell signal between the towns. The bush pilots call it the silence. When the prop shuts off, you hear nothing at all. Most people who go missing in this place go missing in weather you cannot survive. Most of them are never found. Since 1988, more than 16,000 individuals have disappeared in Alaska, a rate of about 4 for every 1,000 residents, more than double the U.S. national average. Some sources put the cumulative figure across the past 5 decades at 20,000. October 16, 1972. A Cessna 310 took off from Anchorage bound for Juneau. On board were 4 men. Hale Boggs, the sitting United States House Majority Leader, a Democrat from Louisiana, and a member of the Warren Commission that investigated the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Nick Begich, the freshman congressman from Alaska. Russell Brown, Begich's aide, and Don Johns, the bush pilot. The plane never reached Juneau. What followed was the largest peacetime search and rescue operation in American history. 40 military aircraft, 50 civilian planes, 39 days. Over 3,600 flight hours. They found nothing. Not a piece of the airframe. Not a personal effect. Not a human remain. As a direct result, Congress passed a federal law that every U.S. civil aircraft must carry an emergency locator transmitter. The Boggs-Begich Cessna is the reason that law exists. The disappearances kept coming. A marathon runner named Paul LeMaitre vanished 200 feet from the finish line of his first marathon after handing his race bib to a course official. State troopers, mountain rescue, and dogs searched the 200-foot stretch. He has never been found. In any given year, between 500 and 2,000 people are reported missing in Alaska and never seen again. Most died of weather. Some died of bears. A few stepped off a dock or out of a plane or over a finish line, and the wilderness just closed over them. The Alaska Triangle is not haunted. It is empty, and empty is bigger than haunted. That was 13 U.S. locations where people vanish without a trace. For me, the case that lingers is Stacy Arris at Yosemite, 50 yards from a witness, on open granite, gone in broad daylight. Tell us in the comments which one stays with you or which case you think we missed. If you like documentary deep dives into the places history forgot, subscribe. We post stories like this every week.